Hello. So, I went on my sunrise walk this morning. It was like 2.5 hours. Totally didn't mean to do that. Um, it wasn't a grand, glorious painting in the sky this morning because it is very densely cloudy. And so I don't want to say I was disappointed that I didn't get to see a magical, glorious show this sunrise, um, because I actually got another message from it instead. Like, I felt the denseness, and I don't feel it in a negative way, but on those days when it's like super cloudy and you feel the pressure and it feels very muted because the pressure, maybe it's the barometric pressure, I don't know, but it feels so much. It kind of feels like, I don't know how many people out there would in any way like resonate with this, but I'm the type of person that when I feel overwhelmed, the smaller the space I can squeeze myself into, the happier I feel. Don't understand what that is, but when I am overwhelmed, if it is a small space, it makes me feel more expansive, if that makes sense. Um, it gives me the feeling of being protected in a box, I guess. I don't know. I don't have any idea why I would feel okay in a box. But when it's a very densely cloudy day like it is today, like it feels like everything is muted. There's not as much sound, which is actually very interesting. To pay very close attention to your surroundings as you are outside. um, I live in a not really big town. I mean, but it's like a rural area near a bigger city, right? So it's kind of bustling, but not like, a city. And so, like, there's a highway not very far from where I live. And so, the park that I go to all the time, there is always noise. But on days like this today, and especially early in the morning on a Sunday, there's not a lot of people out. There's not a lot of cars on the highway. And so, it's very muted. And it's comforting for me. Yes, I missed my glorious, beautiful display in the morning sky. But at the same time, like it felt like having a nice little blankie wrapped around me while I was sitting on the couch watching my favorite show or whatever. It felt very comforting. And so as I was walking, I am the type of person that. So when went out early, it was before the sun even rose, and so the stars were still in the sky. And every now and then, like the little bit of clouds would separate, and I'd see like the moon or the stars. And I'm literally the type of person that's like, "Oh, thank you for letting me see that." Yes. And as I'm walking, I touched the trees and I felt the energy and grounded myself in the energy of Mother Nature, and I just allowed myself to walk my path, which, like I said, ended up being a 2.5 hour walk. Well, 45 minutes of it I was sitting, but hour and 45 minutes worth of it I was walking. So I allowed myself to see the sidewalk I was on as my journey through life. And on the one side, I saw that which would suck me down and in, like kind of like a tar pit kind of thing. Like one step into that, I'm probably gonna, struggle to get back out. And then on the other side, there's like, this thick forest. Yes, I probably wouldn't get lost in the thick forest because, it's a forest and I would just wander around happily forever. But when we have a mission, right? When we have a purpose, we're meant to follow that path that is laid out in front of us. But how do you see that path? How do you find out what is on your sidewalk? This is where going and doing what I do. No music, no videos, just observation of the world around you. When you start to observe the world, it starts to show you a bigger picture. So like I said, I'm walking along the sidewalk and I'm touching the trees and I smell the flowers, I look at the sky, I observe the world around me, I feel the presence around me, I open myself to even noticing when it's quieter, to noticing when there's higher amounts of traffic, to notice when there's more of a reverberation around me because of like the echoes of the cars like bouncing off of the buildings. Like noticing every little detail and using every single bit of your five senses to experience the world around you completely changes your reality. You open yourself up to things like the smell of a flower. If you stop and smell every single flower, eventually you'll run across something that triggers something, like I was talking about yesterday. It didn't necessarily trigger a memory, but it triggered something else, right? So if you're sitting there absorbed 100% mindfully in your surroundings as you're walking, you start to hear the messages. They're not necessarily just random feelings. You're absorbing the information from your environment. Okay? Everything has a vibration. Everything holds energy. It doesn't matter how you register that energy, it's there. And so when we open ourselves to reading that energy, it changes how the messages come to us. For example, when I put my hand on that tree this morning, I felt the calm steadiness of a tree that knows its purpose. The purpose is to patiently grow, to fulfill its actual mission, which is to help create oxygen. But while it's there, what does it do? It anchors rooted in the ground and grows towards the sun to feed itself, and then it dances in the wind. It lives a perfectly happy existence, fulfilling its purpose. What can we learn from nature? So much. I went to the pond yesterday with my daughter, and as we were sitting there at this little like dock thing, like overlooking the pond, I counted the heads of the turtles that were on the top of the pond, and there were 5. Within a couple of minutes of us standing there looking at the water, there's like 25 turtles, literally all little heads popped up looking at us. I'm sure they were expecting food because, it's a park, people probably throw food in there, whatever. But I noticed that every single one of the pond life that came, which we saw little fish, we saw a snake, we saw the 25 turtles, and we saw the ducks. And every single one of them, I asked my daughter, I said, what kind of lesson can we learn from this particular animal? And so we started out with the turtle. The turtle, oh my gosh, such a wonderful lesson. There's a nice, soft, squishy inside that's super delicious to every one of their little predators, right? But it has that nice protective shell around it to protect its gushy little insides from being destroyed. That's you, right? You have given and given and given, and you showed the whole world your gushy little insides, right? And then, a few vultures came around. Well, not vultures, but birds of prey came around, trying to peck at your little shell. And you're starting to like, oh, wait, I have protection. I have my lessons that I've learned. I've created that armor. And one of the things that came to me this morning, my love is unconditional. But I have learned that mercy is not. When pain becomes a pattern, mercy runs out. Love, unconditional. Mercy, not unconditional. This is that shell wrapping around your gushy little insides. You set boundaries and you start to look for patterns and you're like, whoop, thank you. I will part ways with you. I wish you peace. I wish you light. I wish you love. I give you my compassion. We are no longer vibing at the same level. That's cool. You do you, I'll do me. Part ways? Maybe, eventually, their sidewalk will come back to yours. You never know. Which is why we don't resent, we let go. And then, what is the next lesson the turtle teaches us? I love, absolutely, the story of the tortoise and the hare. Patience. Patience. Same lesson from the tree, right? We patiently wait for the day to arrive when we can fulfill our purpose. 11:11 when I said that. Okay? So when we are patient and we just walk on our little sidewalk as we go along, observing all that is around us, protected in our little shell, we'll get there eventually. And you know what? Hopefully you have a great journey on the way, right? Okay, and then I looked at this singular little snake with a teeny tiny little head popped up out of the water, and I could see its body underneath, and I saw its little tongue come out, and I'm like, wow, okay. Nicolette, that's my daughter's name. What is the lesson that we can learn from the snake? And she said something, as a child would. And I was like, oh, that's a really good lesson. And then I was like, but you know what the snake teaches me? The lesson of duality. The lesson of duality, because the snake is the symbol, the serpent is a symbol within our entire life that is the representation of duality. We see the snake not only as a form and a symbol of transformation, but also that which can destroy us. We see this as not only the venomous serpent who can strike and kill, but also the one who literally eats its tail in eternity of cycle repeat. So this is our duality in form, both a symbol of death and transformation, both a symbol of cycle repeating and breaking free. So then we moved on to the little fishy. What is it that the fishy can teach us? This actually ended up becoming something even sillier. But I specifically spoke to her about the bottom feeder. I wanted to speak about the bottom feeder because the fact that the bottom feeder is the one that kind of excites the energy, and then we talked about the lotus flower afterwards, so it was even more exciting. So the bottom feeder, this is the one that roams around in the depths, right? Imagine as this is you in your own life, in your own little deep dark well that is within you that holds all of those dark little shadows that you've had your entire life. This is you at the bottom of that well, collecting all of those shadows, going, come on, I'm gonna bring you all up to the surface. And then when you get up to the surface, you can go, okay, this is a little treasure I found from this little bit of gunk. This is a little treasure I found from this little bit of gunk. And now your bottom feeder energy is eating up all of that gunky stuff at the bottom, right? Yummy. Muck. Transmuted into a delicious bit of energy. Okay? So, and then the duckies. You guys know I love duckies. Duckies. I love the duck. I call them the tink of the fowl. They are my favorite of the fowls. And I asked my daughter, I said, well, what is it that we can learn from the duckies? And her answer made my little heart so happy. we can learn that boy ducks are prettier than girl ducks. So cute. Anyway, so we talked about how, we talked about how the ducks, they are the ones that can teach us how to allow the water to roll right off of our back, to be able to dive deep into the water and come out, dry. And I just love their little. You ever seen a duck like dive into the water and kick its little feet at the top? It's so adorable. I love it. So we can see so many lessons from nature when we just open our eyes and observe. When we see the cloudy day as, a lack of sunshine, instead of, maybe a moment of compression, it's a completely different view, isn't it? Completely different perspective. I don't see it as a day without sunshine. I see it as a day of reflection. And it's perfect for a Sunday. Muted energy on a relaxing day. I love it. So I hope that you guys are having a fantastic Sunday, and I hope that it gets even better. Bye now.